You ready, Stu? Yeah, I'm ready. Stu Maschwitz. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Ben. Wow, I am so excited about this. I'm going to try to talk very briefly about why we're doing this. The simple answer is just that Ben needs material for this event. So do not have dinner with Ben at a lovely restaurant in Oakland and maybe have a couple of cocktails and then be all like, I totally have this idea. I'm going to get up in front of everybody and like, because you will wake up the next morning and it will be on the calendar. That's my first tip. If you don't know, can I use this web browser without destroying the universe, Ben? Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. Ben uses a Dvorak keyboard, in case you're wondering if he was super weird. Um, this here's my website. That's a photo I took of some typewriters. And down here you can find all my stuff, like my Instagrizzle and my, that's Flickr, right? Flickr's the pig snout. Yeah. So that's where you find out about me. I'm 5TU on Twitter. A lot of you might know that. Does anyone have no idea who I am? You just coming to these things? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for, all right, that's good. Okay, so super brief. I'm a filmmaker. I've known Ben forever. Photography is sort of a part of what I do as a filmmaker. I had a company for 10 years here in San Francisco called The Orphanage, which had a lot of former Lucasfilm employees. There's a former Orphanage employee here tonight, Tim Gross, which I'm very excited about. There he is. So I like making movies. I like making images. I actually make software for making images too. I designed an iPhone app called Plastic Bullet 100 years ago, and I really love Lightroom. And I am in this sort of privileged position, which is as a filmmaker, I get to spend a lot of money on cameras, but as a photographer, I get to remain an enthusiastic amateur. How many of you are professional photographers? Congratulations, that's awesome. How many of you are enthusiastic amateur photographers? Equally awesome. All right. And the reason that I wanted to do this is that, as I said in the very first user group meeting that I spoke at, I'm ignoring Ben who's coming over here. Oh, thanks. Yeah, don't look at me. Look at the screen. I really view photography, I view Lightroom as, in every way, half of my photographic experience. Every time I am pressing the shutter button, I am thinking about what I'm going to do to that shot in Lightroom. Everything I do in Lightroom informs the next time I go out with my camera. It's a really pleasurable part of the photography experience for me. I use Lightroom heavily. I use the develop module extensively. I have a kind of quirky way of working with it using a set of presets that I made, which I'm going to try not to lean too heavily on tonight because I don't want it to be like an ad for them. You can buy them on Adobe Exchange and stuff like that. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is celebrating that special thing that happens sometimes in Lightroom where you see that maybe a photo that you've taken can turn out to be more than the sum of its part with a little tender loving care in the darkroom. And I've had that experience where I've sat with friends and said, oh yeah, well, if it was my photo, I would do this, and seen them smile at the results. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. So I'm going to jump in here, and I think the way Ben and I discussed that we were going to do this is I was just going to kind of pick randomly, but I was first going to make sure that the person whose photo this is actually here. So is Kay last name withheld here? All right, excellent. You're up, Kay. So let me see if I'm going to do this right. We're going to go to develop, go up to settings and reset all. I'm going to learn that shortcut, which I don't often have a chance to use. All right, nudity right off the bat. Free the nipple. Okay, I love that we're starting with this because, first of all, I love babies and naked bald men. And but I also think that I've gotten yelled at before for saying this emphatically, but I really, unless you're Ansel Adams, you should only take pictures of people. If you go to the Eiffel Tower, do not take a picture of the Eiffel Tower. As you know, that has been done very well before you got there, and yours will be worse than the one that you buy at the, postcard store. Take a picture of the people who are with you at the Eiffel Tower. This is obviously a special photo to someone, and so I'm really excited to be able to use it. It's also really pretty. There's really beautiful light on here, and I'm gonna trade a little screen real estate for sliders over here. So my first thought when I see this image is that there's a lot of skin in it, and I want to make people's skin look really great. This is something I sort of inherited from my career in film, especially directing TV commercials. People who do the color work on film and commercials place a lot of emphasis on making people's skin look great. So as much as I love the lighting and contrast in this, I'm immediately going to reach for the highlight slider and just sort of see if I can maybe just take down just a little bit of what is some blown out light here. And I'm also going to immediately do something that I do pretty aggressively to a lot of images I touch, which is adjust the vignetting. So I almost never remove vignetting. What I do is I go out and buy the most expensive lens I can find that has no vignetting, and then I come into Lightroom and I add it back in. Okay, now it's time for some dirty tricks. I'm not going to lean too heavily on the presets, but I do want to show you something.
Stu?
Yo.
I'm just going to set an example and ask a question.
Oh, please, yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason that you use the lens vignetting correction slider in the lens correction panel as opposed to the post-crop vignetting slider in the effects panel?
Yeah, there totally is.
Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. You guys all heard that question, right? So, yeah, there's two different ways to vignette the image. The lens vignetting slider is aware of the lens that you took the photo with, if Lightroom is able to recognize it, and does a very organic job of either trying to remove the vignetting that's there or add more of it back in. It's one-stop shopping for vignetting, but as soon as you crop, it does not work anymore because as soon as you crop, your vignette stayed over there. So that's not okay. So post-crop vignetting is under effects, and it is a way of vignetting your image that is crop aware, as just like the name sounds. It is handled after the crop. So your vignettes appear photographically correct. It's a super great trick for turning cropping into, I think, a more legitimate thing. I crop a lot. I oftentimes shoot with just one lens just for expediency, which is a word that I use instead of laziness. And so cropping is great. I love cropping. A little bit of post-crop vignette can take the curse off the crop, make it look less cropped, and make it look more like you were a photographer who had like intent and knew what they were doing. I do not like the way it looks when you just grab post-crop vignetting and go for it. There's all these like midpoint and feather. Like basically lens vignetting is Apple and down here is Microsoft. So I have this set of presets that actually I haven't released to the public yet, but I'm working with this idea. I have these post-crop vignette circular. These ones are in the presets that I have right now. And you can see how this works with these presets, that they're arranged in gradation. So as you slide over them, you see in that little preview up here, you see a preview of the different amount of vignetting. So I'm just going to pick one of those. That's a much more gentle application of the post-crop vignette. And you can see where all the sliders are. I've got roundness at 100, feathers at 70, highlights at 30. So there's some manipulation of those to try to achieve a more organic vignette. And so I've baked those into presets. I also have these ones here I call invisible vignette, which is sort of a more feathered, subtle vignette. And again, we can always just, let's go back. Here's the original So here's where we've taken it. Does that answer your question, Ben? Okay, sweet. We're going to have to speed things along here. So there's two ways to make skin tone look great. One is to attack the skin tone itself, and the other is to take what we all learned in basic sort of grade school art class and work with complementary colors. In this shot, the people's skin is warm, but so are the white linens. And if you want to communicate the idea of something like luxurious soft white linens, you don't want to use the color yellow, which is actually sort of what color these sheets are, empirically, you know. And we could white balance for them, and I'll just show you what that would look like. It cools them off, but it also cools off the people. And I would actually much rather keep the people nice and warm. The white balance that this image arrived with is really pleasing to me. So I'm going to show you a set of presets I have here called Cool Shadows. And what these do is in various amounts, I'll show you what these presets do, but in various amounts, they ramp in the split toning controls. So I've picked a shade of blue and an amount here. And all this preset is doing is just bringing in different amounts of this. And note the balance, which controls what's considered a shadow and what's considered a highlight here, is kind of cheated over so that just the shadowy stuff is tinted blue like this. And I think that would be okay for this image, but it's actually not going to be my preferred technique for this image. I'm going to leave that alone, because again, it was sucking all the warmth out of these people. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use another set of presets that are shortcuts to something that I would do with the tone curve here. So in the tone curve, scary, scary tone curve, unless you have Photoshop Stockholm Syndrome, in which case you're like, yes, the curve. But what I did is I took a curve that I liked, which I call Blockbuster Gold, and actually let's try Blockbuster Sand. There we go. All right, this one's better. Okay. So these are different amounts of a curve adjustment that pushes shadows, crushes the reds in the shadows, lifts up green, and tones down the highlights of blue. And the trick of it is that it's so fussy to adjust these little points that I went to some rather ridiculous efforts to ramp in the amount of this curve. So I can zero it out effectively here or max it out effectively here. And once I get kind of a sense of like how this, and maybe in combination with a little bit of this cool shadow guy here, has the power to cool off the environment around our people, then I can actually go back in and I'll even feel free to warm the image up a little bit underneath that. And last thing I'm going to do here, I'm just going to, I hope you guys don't mind if I crop your images. I love to crop. And I'm going to grab the gradient control here. And I'm just going to, you know, speaking as a dad, I know that nobody cares about dads. So I'm going to darken down that side of dad, which made him a little ashen, so I warmed it back up so that all these controls are happening inside the gradient. And then I'm just going to sculpt this lighting just a little bit more. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's all about the bibs. Nobody cares about anything but bibs. Bibs are best. And so nobody really wants to see your nipple, Dad. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to call it quits on this one. The key things here, actually, wait, I got one more thing I want to do. I can't stop. Can't stop with the. All right. This preset also squeezed the skin tones a little bit here in the hue controls. If Dad has sort of oftentimes babies have this too. You don't want to de-pink a baby too much. But speaking as like a highly pink person who with a wife who has beautiful skin tones, uh, she always looks amazing in photos, and I always look like I've been drinking and or fighting and or drinking and fighting. So this is your slider right here. This moving this red slider in hue toward orange is like your it takes years off of potentially heavily drinking dad. So just moving this a little bit over here kind of warms everybody up. I don't want to de-pink that baby too much. If there was a woman in this photo who had like ruby red lips, this would be a dangerous slider to use, but this image, it's okay. So before, after, and next. Paul F., you here? Yes? I see a hand over there. All right. Sweet. I know where that is. All right. So let's navigate our way through here. All right, we got, this is a tricky image because it's got a horizon in it that is fighting. Is this like a super long exposure? Is that what's going on here? I am a fan of this bridge. It's not my favorite bridge in the Bay Area. You know, when you're cropping, you got those rule of thirds guidelines there. Can you guys see those okay? I do use those actually. I take a lot of pictures of the bridges around town here, and I'm always stuck with the exact problem that this photo has, which is just the perspective is shooting you off towards Marin, and there's nothing up there. There's nothing to do with Marin. So and this image is also somewhat monochromatic, and I don't want to, you know, not, I don't want to disrespect the somber blue tone that it came in with, but I do want to try to bring out the most of it. This is maybe where I find myself wanting to reach for the clarity slider a little bit to kind of pop out those clouds, and I might drop highlights down a little bit as well. And then what I might do is I might grab this, I like to call it the blob, and blob is always inverted for me. I think of the blob as a blob, not as a mobile vignette. But I'm going to sort of try to emphasize this side of the shot here a little bit. And let's see what. Okay. Before, after. That feels like San Francisco to me. Paul F., what do you think about that? You buying that? Yeah? All right. I'm going to move on. If you do have a question, yeah. You don't know about the blob. She doesn't know about the blob. Let's talk about the blob. The blob is rad. Okay, so up here you got a couple of different ways to affect the image locally. So you saw me previously, I used the gradient. We can actually, let's use the gradient on this one. This will be gradients and sky bridge shots are actually, oh, that's actually that. See, it's good that we came back because there's some beautiful detail there that we are now getting. So the gradient, you know, does what it says in the tint. It's this sort of gradient adjustment here. What is the official name of the blob, Ben? Is it the Radial Filter? Yeah. So the Radial Filter is a way that, maybe the most classic way that you would do it is you would put it on a face or something like that. But it basically is all of the local adjustments, either inside or outside of a soft oval. And you can rotate the oval, stretch it out. It's a very nice way to just localize adjustments. You can invert it, so you can place color strategically anywhere in the image. And then you can delete it. Yeah, that's the blob. The blob is, all right. Jan L, are you here? Yeah, right. Does that mean you sounded more like a Jan than a Jan, maybe? Woohoo! All right. I'm not really sure that people should be swimming in that water. I got one word for you with this photo. Instagram. This one's going on Instagram, so it's getting square. I'm taking this diagonal line here and this guy, and I'm aiming it into the corner of the image. Because one time I had a book with a bunch of engravings by Gustave Doré, and I noticed he was doing that, and I thought it made me seem really smart when I did it too. So often I find myself grabbing this highlight slider. It's just such a great way to, our cameras, you guys all submitted raw files today, which is awesome. And our cameras are so good at capturing uh, uh, a ton of dynamic range. And so packing it artfully back into something you can print and share is good. All right, now I'm going to cheat again. And for that, I do apologize. I do have a set of these vintage presets that I make with me, and I just can't resist wanting to throw one on this image. Now, here's the thing about presets, right? Presets are like, if this truly is like sort of the Iron Chef metaphor, I feel like using the presets too heavily is like sort of like me showing up with a bunch of secret herbs and spices that I had plenty of time to prepare beforehand. So I'm going to unapply it, and I'm going to try to get roughly where we were with that preset just using the actual developed controls. But I do feel like you might indulge me in using my vignette preset here because you saw how I built it. It's just a special combo of these sliders here. In particular, notice the highlight slider is set to 100. What that does, if you have that set to 0, the post-crop vignetting effect kind of blasts over everything equally. The more you crank up highlights, the more highlights kind of exposure-wise like punch through the vignette in what I think is a more pleasing way, and that's why my presets have it set to 100. But this image, like, I don't know, for me, swimming with my predominantly heterosexual male friends here, look, it gives me sort of a nostalgic feeling. So I'm going to show you how I affect that sort of visco cam kind of lifted blacks look here. The dirty secret of this is that it actually doesn't matter what you do as long as you do it. The other thing that you see I'm doing is I'm basically making an S-curve. And what that means is that in the middle of the image, you'll see that the angle of this curve is still more or less 45 degrees like it was before. I've just towed up the floor a little bit. So the people still feel contrasty, everyone still sort of feels like they are, I haven't flattened the image, like I haven't just, reduced contrast in the image. By giving it that sort of film-like S-curve and then lifting up the blacks, all it does is it just triggers to your mind that somebody shot this on film and then either let it sit around for a long time or maybe took a photo of a developed print or something like that. It triggers all kinds of dirty tricks in our mind of like nostalgia and vintageness. And so that's what I'm after here. The last thing I'm going to do is just a couple of local color controls. So I'm going to grab the blue of the boat and I'm going to make it a little more cyan. I'm going to grab the pink of the people and make them a little more people colored. And then I think we do also have a bit of a detail issue on our guy here. So I'm going to go into sharpening and I'm going to crank it up like crazy. Now, are you ready for the super dirty tricks? I'm sharpening this image too much, which means I need to reduce noise, which means basically I've turned this into just scrambled eggs. How do you recover from scrambled eggs? Well, the answer is you just add Skittles on top. And so here's the cool thing about Lightroom's grain controls is that if you make big grain, you obscure high frequency detail. In other words, it blurs the image a little bit. That's great because that is actually what grain does. A lot of times grain in a plugin or whatever is applied on top of the image makes it look artificial because it's just layered on top. The Lightroom grain is really beautiful because it understands that to make the image look like it was made of grain, you have to respect that big grain means low detail. So you can see how much we've managed to achieve the illusion of sharpness by taking away sharpness everywhere and not letting something else in the photo be the sharpest thing aside from the kid here. So once again, there we were before, there we were after. I have no idea if you were interested in this looking. For all I know, this photo was taken 5 minutes ago and needs to be printed in modern swimming, super high-tech swimming magazine, not vintage nostalgic swimming magazine. But this is where my mind goes when I see this image. Any questions about that? I breezed through that real fast. I'm trying to get to as many as possible. Pat G. Are you here? Yes. All right. Pat G is here. All right. Where was this taken, Pat G? Manhattan Beach. I believe I've eaten a hot dog directly above where this was taken. All right. I'm dying of curiosity. I haven't even looked at what camera this was taken with, but let's take a look at that sky. Oh, we got a little something there. Okay. All right. I think we're gonna be able to make this work, Pat G. Let's see if Lightroom can work in sweet. Did you see what I pressed there? I went into the upright controls. I wanted to see, there's not really vertical lines so much in here, but I wanted to see, maybe it'll level, maybe it'll notice that horizon. No, it will not. Yeah, okay, so this shot is defeating upright's abilities here. I definitely can't resist reaching for Blockbuster Gold for this one, and I think you'll see why. Let's not go too crazy with it though. And let's bring those highlights down. And here comes the gradient. Again, I don't really know what's lurking in there, but I do want to see something. So now I've got a control for just the exposure of that upper left corner of the image. Oh, hey, all right. All right, now we're getting somewhere. I just want to see some detail up there. I want to invite the detail into my home, and then I want to smack it down with the vignette. Get out of here. But I want my detail. I'm gonna even use the blob. If I remember to invert it before I use it, then it won't need to be reminded again. This is too much. But you get the idea. I want to go a little bit Trey Ratcliffe on this image here. I got a couple of chuckles with that one. I like to make fun of photographers much more talented, skilled, famous, rich, handsome, charming than myself. Okay, and last but not least, I like seeing a little bit of this sand down here, but not all. So, and now that I did that, I feel like I don't even know which way is up anymore. I have certain images that I go back into Lightroom and I re-level them every time I see them. I'm tempted to try something crazy here. Bear with me. I just want to balance out this image with a little bit of blue up in that corner. Okay. Before, after, before, after. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm sorry, what was the question? Oh, yeah, throw a little contrast into the upper corner. You know what? I am so with you on that. Let's totally do that. Yeah, you probably have a slightly better view on this of the balance of the image. Yeah, that was a good suggestion. Um, what I'm basically seeking to do here is a couple things. I'm seeking to create local interesting contrast in an image that we know has interesting details. Our eye is begging to see it. We just want to sort of satisfy that urge to see a bit of texture there. And then I'm also trying to create color contrast. Again, we know it's a sunset, and we just want to sort of uh, fairly answer the viewer's expectations about what a sunset ought to be able to provide. So that's why I picked the palette that I did. Again, it's a dirty trick, but if you can make things the color that they are, that's always good. So by making those waves blue, we made water blue. By making the sun yellowy orange, we made the sun the color of the sun. You can oftentimes think in terms of like if you were a kid with a box that only had a few crayons in it, how would you color these things? That's a good place to go. Then with that extra caveat that don't let someone's leather jacket be a brown leather jacket when it's a black leather jacket. A black leather jacket in a photo should be a little bit blue to look black. Um, and so that's why I'm okay with the crashing waves being this sort of cyany blue color when in fact they're, white. Um, all right, so moving on. What do we got here? Barbara F. All right. Oops. Wow, that's cool. Where are we, Barbara F? Idaho. No, Idaho. No, all right. I know. Sorry. Sorry. Are you in some sort of a helicopter type device here or something? Wow, it's really neat. Higher than Niagara Falls. That's super cool. All right. I'm gonna remove chromatic aberration on there, Barbara. Sorry. All right. Interesting. All right, let's get in here. I'm gonna start by just putting a little contrast back into this. And whites is not doing it for me, so I'm reaching for that highlight slider like a crutch, I gotta say. But I'm gonna move just blacks down to kind of peg contrast in there. The trick of this image is I'm having a little bit of trouble kind of figuring out where I want to be looking. So I'm going to try to focus our attention a little bit. This will give you a sense of like these curve presets, why I like them, and why you shouldn't be afraid of the curves. Maybe this would be the one where I come clean about the curves here. Like if we just do like a little bit of this tone curve dealy bob over here, we add a lot of. See how when I turn that off, sort of like everything got beige. Beige is like the curse of everything. As an independent filmmaker, I lived my whole life trying to find houses to film scenes in that don't have beige walls. Like beige will just get you everywhere you go. Nothing should ever be beige. Do not. There's two reasons that beige is bad. First of all, beige is the color of I didn't make a decision. No offense to whoever made that rock. But second of all, beige is like skin tone for a lot of us, and especially in Idaho. And so it should be reserved for things that have a positive emotional association with warmth, like cookies and food and people. And this rock. So a little bit of that curve brings a color contrast into here. It lets beige be beige. It lets water be water. It brings out some color in here. And I'm just going to show you how I did it. So um, uh, basically, you can kind of have fun here in the curves. The curves give you an opportunity to do something that you can't do anywhere else in Lightroom, which is control contrast differently in red, green, and blue. So adding like a little bit of contrast to red already gray kind of makes the image look a little interesting, but now our cliff is too pink, right? So going into green and just recovering that a little bit, you got to be so touchy with this. You can see why I made the presets. Okay, so all I did, you see, like that's like the world's subtlest S curve, right? In red and green. I didn't touch blue. But if we toggle this on and off, you can just see like beige town, happy town. All right. Then the other thing I want to do, there's like kind of two interesting things to me about this. One is that this little like hut down here that is some awesome piece of architecture, and then the other is sort of the way that the water flows down through all this interesting stuff on its way to the main event. So I'm going to shape our visual impression of this shot with just a couple of these gradients here. And what that means is that I'm going to darken up the waterfall a little bit. But holy crap, look how good that is when you darken up the waterfall. It's so pretty. Look what I did. My silly little contrast curve. It made the water blue, which is all I wanted. All I ever wanted was for the water to be blue. This is too much. Don't think I don't know that's too much. Add some contrast in the gradient guy. I'm actually going to uncontrast this area here because I feel like I want to have a sense of light coming into this place. What I often do, being a bad photographer, having a lot of time on my hands in Lightroom, is I try to sort of, I'm sure there's a way that a person could light a photograph before they take it, but I like to do it after. And so we'll go back down to, so I just wanted to feel light kind of coming into this canyon-like kind of space where we are. So in that gradient, I lifted exposure and I reduced contrast. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our profile, manual controls, and I'm going to bring in that vignetting just a little bit. Okay, so before, after. Notice how the before now feels upside down. It feels like all the light is on the ground. And now it feels like all the light is up here. Isn't that interesting? Like that's my favorite key in Lightroom. You tap this before and after, right? And you feel like it's oftentimes the justification for using a heavy vignette is like sometimes you tap the before and it feels like, oh, that's a picture about everything out here. And then you tap after and it feels like, oh, it's just a picture about the stuff in the middle of the frame. A vignette is like safety rails for your image, you know, keep stuff from falling off the edges. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's move on. It is the backslash key. It's on this Mac. It's under the delete key, under the vertical bar thing. These are keys that I'm sure Apple is about to take away from us because why would you ever use a backslash or a vertical bar key unless you were some kind of super nerd like me? Okay. Stuart N, who has the handsomest name of all. All right, excellent. Whoa, Stuart N went to Burning Man and made my life too easy. This is an amazing photograph already. This is cool. I am, you know, this provides me the opportunity of knowing when enough is enough, because this is just gorgeous. So, all right. I want to just move the slider. I just keep wanting to move the slider. Oh, I just want it to be so warm, right? But if you do that, I've never been to Burning Man. So to me, like I'm sure to a person who's been to Burning Man, this looks like Burning Man. To a person who's never been to Burning Man, I'm like, oh, this must be what Burning Man's like. How can we get away with doing that? Well, the way we get away with tinting an image that heavily, because this is too much. This looks like a hack job, right? It's because I moved one thing. You got to move two things, and that's what makes you not a hack. You can get away with super warm highlights as long as you cool off the shadows, right? So I'm going to go into my crazy cool shadows presets here and just try that out. And I'm getting there. I'm not 100% happy with that, but let's do it manually then. We'll back off on that just a little bit. But again, the rule is the rule. This steampunk dirigible mobile here is clearly made out of some kind of awesome sheet metally stuff. And if I can get that to feel bluishy, silvery, metally to your eye, then I can do whatever I want in the whole rest of the image. So we're going to start by, I can never, see this is why I use the presets because I just can't find anything ever. All right, so I'm going to start by just bringing the shadows over to this blue town and just crank them up. And I'm going to just, this is so touchy finding the right place for that to be, right? Okay, so let's turn that on and off. So here's with and without. So now look how much liberty I'm able to take with the color of the sky and everything there, because I am aggressively tinting the whole image one direction, but I'm preserving what you know to be true, which is that metal is blue, in our child's drawing kind of sense of it here. Cheating. All right, so the blob is back, and you'll notice that I'm bluing up the spaceship using just the blob, and maybe I'll clarity up the spaceship a little bit too. Why can I do this? Why can I get away with this? Well, it's because Ansel Adams has been doing it forever, dodging and burning. The more you try to do, this is why Photoshop is for suckers. Should have picked a different place to say that. Like, don't get out a scalpel, just like get out like your big boxing gloves, and just because if the image doesn't come quietly, then it didn't want to be there in the first place. All right. What else should we do? Who said vignette the living crap out of it? Somebody did. Okay. What was that? Sorry. Punch the clouds up. Yeah. Once you invoke Ansel Adams, then you're just like, what else can I do? All right. Oh yes, a little bit of blue in the sky. Clarity is amazing. It's definitely the most expensive slider in Lightroom. It used to be a little bit heavy-handed and would give you that sort of haloing artifact from like bad Trapper Keeper cover HDR kind of stuff. But now that they use Laplacian pyramids, am I right? Laplacian pyramids, it's awesome. Okay, last thing that I messed up on here is I'm breaking one of my rules about things being the color that they are. The sand is looking a little yellow, so I'm going to gradient and dye the sand back into more sandy place, still protecting my spaceship. Okay. So I pinked up and warmed up the sand a little bit. I also pulled saturation out of it. I don't have time to go into the details of this, but the way that the saturation control in these local adjustments interacts with the controls that actually change the colors of things is nuanced and worth some experimentation. Don't give up on it just because it did the wrong thing for you. I just can't help but feel like there's something missing from this shot. So I'm going to spend one more second with it. I'm going to invoke another blob. There we go. Okay. Delete that blob. Add it back in. Wow, that's the world's most subtle blob. I guess maybe I wasn't as unhappy with this image as I thought it was. I think I wanted it to be a little bit brighter. Yeah, all right. I've learned a hard lesson about exposure levels in shots. Like if shots that aren't super bright look great on your monitor, and then they look dark when you print them. And so if you ever think you're going to print an image, which I guess is a thing that people still do, I think it's worth sort of cheating things a little bit brighter. It sort of trained me, for instance, to run with like the default. When I first installed Lightroom, I made this, like fallow area around your darkest gray possible, but it encouraged me to make these like Velvet Elvis paintings. And so I actually run with it at this default level of brightness, and I think it keeps me a little sane. Because I would upload things to Flickr, and you'd see them on a white background, which is just a terrible thing to do to a photo. Why would they ever do that? And they would look really dark and dingy. So I sort of cured myself of my love affair with super dark stuff. Okay, so before, after. That's all I want. I just want that little titter, like, oh, yeah. Cool, that was a fun one. All right, no pressure, but the next one better be also awesome. Scott K, what you got? All right, good. Here. Ooh, all right. What are we gonna do with this, Scott K? What are we gonna do with this? What is that? Is that snow? What's that? It's sand. Oh, good. Okay, so I can warm it up. Oh, beautiful. All right. Sand in Death Valley. Are you in a commercial aircraft here, or are you Cessna? Awesome. I want. I have this insane sense that there's a horizon somewhere in this image that isn't horizontal, but I don't want to lose all that beautiful stuff up there. I'm torn about this image because I kind of want to like go all CinemaScope on it, uh, but then I'm losing this beautiful foreground thing. This is a sort of Sophie's choice that I find myself in with images all the time, where there's like a fact of the image that you think is important, but you can fill your images with all the facts that you want, and uh, and nobody will care. They will skip right past your highly accurate image. Um, so I long ago realized that it was my job with my photography to do my best to bring home an emotion, not a fact. Again, nobody cares that you saw the Eiffel Tower, but later you will care what your friends were thinking when you were looking at the Eiffel Tower together. Let's see. It's a good one for that. It's also just like I have this problem too, where I take a picture of the curse of the interesting thing is that the photo will often be the least interesting thing about that thing. And this is an interesting thing that you've taken a picture of here, and I'm not sure if we're going to make this photo into. I don't know if this photo is ever going to compete with how interesting the actual phenomenon itself is. But we're going to try. By the way, this is also oftentimes where I reach for the crazy presets, because the crazy presets, like the vintagey ones or whatever, like they can have the sort of potential of like, making it look. I'm speaking now from my own experience, making making turning a bad photo into high art. Like if you just put this vintage look on it, it's like, is that a still frame from the original Planet of the Apes movie? Like, you can get sort of a you can add a certain something to the image here. Um, but I'm not giving up yet. I'm just a little torn about where to go with this one. Hey, I heard black and white. I like that. This is good, you guys. Throwing out those suggestions that I will later take credit for is highly recommended. Um, um, yes. All right. So what this preset is that I just did, I worked on a movie called Sin City, where we did this kind of thing. We added this sort of crazy kind of contrast into images, and it is too fun not to do it sometimes, and especially if you have a situation like this. I'm gonna say that that is super cool. to me. All right. Who suggested black and white? Okay, if I get tired, you're up next. Okay. How am I doing on time, Ben?
You're good. We have 45 minutes if you just want to carry this all the way into the whole Q&A session, through the whole Q&A session.
All right. That means you guys aren't asking enough questions.
Hey, Stu.
Yo.
I want to remind you of two things. First, don't forget to scroll up in that grid because I think there's some neglected top rows.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And the other is you have some pairs of socks you can give away if anyone's especially
helpful.
Yeah,
hey, that was true. Yeah, black and white guy, you get a pair of socks. Thank you for reminding me of that. I totally get to give away socks.
Just to be clear, these are Lightroom socks.
Yeah, these are Lightroom socks.
Not like Stu's dirty socks.
Yeah.
Or anything.
I'm totally wearing them today. I'm super cool. They got a little like iris on them. Someone else had a helpful suggestion over here. What was it was contrast guy. Who's contrast guy? Contrast and gradient guy. This is a very involved. You guys are the ones who went straight for the seats instead of for the pizza. That's their commitment to Lightroom education. I got more socks, so keep those suggestions flowing. What are we looking at out there? That is a person. Okay, excellent. I thought so. That's a person taking a selfie in the desert. Okay, with their. Is that the classic? My friend died in the desert, so you sort of take the selfie like that includes. My dead friend. It was bringing up bad memories for me.
Next.
Yeah. should we quit while we're at this one? I'm just gonna show you one thing. I do like this image. I don't want to shortchange it, but
that was a joke, by the way. Take as much
no,
time.
I was. You said what I was thinking. 239 by 100. This is the aspect ratio of all your favorite movies, like Blade Runner stuff. And if you're out in the desert with your dead friend and you're looking for just a little cinematic awesomeness, again, this is like sort of a recurring theme is like, what's the sort of dirty trick or sort of association that you can make that connects your image to stuff the viewer is bringing with them already. So this is I'm breaking that, put the horizon in the middle rule, but I really want the shrub to be involved in the situation. This is like an image where I feel that I do not want to gild the lily in terms of the amount of contrast that it's in here. And then sharpen it up a little bit. This little like couple of clicks I do there, that's like something that I've just kind of gotten in the habit of doing on an image that I'm trying to rescue a genuine lack of sharpness in the subject is I'll bang up the amount, I'll click up the radius a little bit, and then I'll immediately just click on the luminance noise reduction up to a bit. Yes? Well, that's a great question. The question is, why am I sharpening now if I don't know how I'm going to be using it? And Lightroom very wisely has two stages of sharpening. And how you're going to use it sharpening, I always apply on export. And those are the sharpening settings that you see when you do Command-E export or in the publish services. And that's where you choose, like, I'm sharpening either for print or for screens, and then you have basically high, medium, and low. And that type of sharpening is a little more liberal in terms of the amount of like slight edging artifacts that it might bring in. If you're used to like cranking up a unsharp mask too high or whatever, it's more sophisticated than that. But it will push into like, I've sharpened this so much that I'm adding artificial contouring to things. Whereas the sharpening that's built into Lightroom is just is just about bringing back the sense of detail that should be there in this image. So if I turn off the detail settings, like this is not output specific sharpening. This is just she's not sharp, so I need to sharpen her. So I would then, in addition to this, use output specific sharpening depending on the destination of the image. And the two working together is fine. Like they don't hurt each other. This one, I love the way this little slider gets red when you turn it up too much. It is possible to make a mess of it, but you see what you're mostly going to do is you're just going to, bring out the maggots. Like it's not. It's not. You're not going to create ringing artifacts, which is miraculous and super cool. So, yeah. Yeah, the question was, what are my favorite aspect ratios and why? So I have a couple of, I think there are like semantic associations with aspect ratios. So this is the CinemaScope aspect ratio. I will also use 16:9 or 1.85 to 1, which are sort of other cinematic aspect ratios if I want to evoke a sense of cinema in an image. I really do think there is a genuinely interesting thing about the square aspect ratio. I don't think it's so interesting that I would make a whole photo service based around nothing but it and then sell it for $1 billion. But that's why I don't have $1 billion. But my other favorite aspect, I went through a phase where I would like just crop images to whatever aspect ratio I thought looked good, and then someone would ask me for a print of them, and then I would realize that I was in trouble because it's useful to be able to print things to an actual size that is printable. It's very expensive to trim and custom frame things that are odd aspect ratios. Luckily, people just stopped asking me to print my photos, so that problem's handled. Now I crop things to all kinds of weird stuff. Does that answer your question? Yeah. The hard-coded ones that I use, I don't really use any of the preset printy ones, but I use the cinematic ones because of just kind of my love of movies and my history in that area. Other than that, I just freely will just like shave the edge off a picture and who cares, because people are only going to see it on Facebook anyway. Kevin S. All right. What you got, Kevin S? You actually did take a picture of just black. No, you didn't. Whoa! All right. All right. So when I see something like this, oh, who's flying this damn thing? You're pushing the. That's not you. Someone is pushing the button that makes the airplane land. Well, this is amazing. Okay, so if ever, people will tell you do not shoot raw. Those people do not get to do this. Shoot raw. Well, it's not a competition to see who can have the smallest file size. Shoot raw. For crying out loud. This is my new shoot raw. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. This preset just ramps in that actual lens vignette. So you see why I use these presets instead of the sliders, because I'm lazy and I actually just like to see what the image looks like before I do anything with it. So I see it up there in the corner, I click on it, and I get my effect. All right, so my favorite thing about this is the pushing the button, because everything I know about flying an airplane is that pushing that button is probably really important. So, all right, here's what this image is cursed with. This image is cursed with too many competing color things. Like the color of the upper half of this image is beautiful. The color of the lower half of this image is confusing to me. If you look really like at the color of this, like this is like bluey purple. This is brown. All this plane is like one material, but this is brown and this is blue. And I do not want that. I want, to me, a plane is made of metal or something sturdy, like plastic with cigarette butt marks in it. And so I want to, maybe I'll reach for my cool shadows here. So this is just a great example of how the cool shadows control makes the airplane color in a way that hopefully just makes you not think about it. You're just like, yes, now that's an airplane. Whereas before it was like, I think an airplane should be that sort of steely blue color. It feels technical. And it feels like maybe they have a prayer of leveling out and landing. All right, and now I'm going to get local. So if you do a local adjustment on a highlight like that is on its hand here. Oh, you know what? Got auto mask turned on. All right, let's talk about auto mask. So auto mask is a helper for local corrections, so that that will actually sort of constrain them to a spot in the image, right? So you see what it's doing there, like it's ignoring the runway because I'm painting around the runway. It's magical and cool, but it's dangerously close to a scalpel. I almost never use it. I do use it occasionally, but I'm always sort of a little nervous when I do. And so exposing down this hand is maybe not as useful as highlighting down that hand, but we're probably going to need to do both because it's just so blown out. And it doesn't really bother me that it's super blown out. I just want it to be legible as a hand. All right. Sorry? Lower the contrast on the hand. Yeah, I agree with that. You're angling for some socks back there, aren't you? Yeah, all right. I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna clarity up this plane a little bit, but I might clarity down this hand because this guy looks a little stressed out. Like you might play like about to like Hulk out of this plane. And I'm right at the edge of the reason that I'm not able to get it any farther down is you can see it's just graying out like that. Never let that happen. You can't just, you gotta just accept that hand's gonna be white. But, but you can see what I did here. I'm just bringing that finger back into the situation here. I will freely, oh, please. Yeah, can everyone hear that? The suggestion is, I think that's worth a try. The suggestion is to use the actual color here. So I can actually scrub around in here, pick a color, but I can actually drag it over here and pick a color straight off the hand. Um, and uh, and try a correction that we've got flow cranked up here. I've got exposure cranked up too, sorry. So, some of these controls can work miracles on your image. And the downside of that is that the results can often look like an image upon which miracles have been worked. But I'm going to keep that one. I like that one. That sort of gets to my thing about like the image kicking and screaming. Like for instance, this correction that I did right here, I think is too much. Um, uh, let's see where we're at with this. Yes, please. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And what we've accomplished here, how do you feel about it in terms of compared to what you got? Yeah. Well, the problem with that now is that I've already done so much. So the suggestion is to use the highlight slider a lot. I started in with on so many local corrections that at this point, if I bring highlights down, I'm I'm making things into a mess here. So, but I mean, contrast is subjective here, and I I do want to see into the shadows on the plane here, but I don't really actually want to know too much about that plane. I really kind of want to focus the attention on just the details of that button. So I'm gonna my tendency would be to leave it more like this. Um, yeah, probably not. Mm, that tells a different story. I don't know. Maybe I like that. That actually, that fell off the truck looking pretty cool. Um, all right. Uh, William R. All right. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. I mean, the camera. Um, well, I'd be an idiot if I didn't do this, right? I'm going in the same direction with this as I would with the uh, Burning Man shot in terms of, I really want that camera to get cooled off. I don't want this image to look artificially tinted either. Either way, um, it's tricky with an image like this that has um, sunlight blasting into it. You can see on the histogram nothing's even close to black. Now I can put that contrast back in, but I'm like I'm fighting City Hall with that, right? Like I'm taking everything kind of that's great about the image out of it. I think the blob is going to help me a lot, but I think I want to use this more as a starting point to get back into that conversation about skin tone. So this is a perfect example of where, like, colors up here are looking pretty great. We're going to blob that camera and make it pop a little bit. But this is like unacceptable right here, this purple arm situation that we have. And this is like the allergy that you need to cultivate is the allergy to skin tone that isn't skin. And what's fun about this is that like the sliders over here don't lie. So if you grab this control and you move it, like it's moving predominantly orange, which is good news because that means that she's predominantly actually an orange person. But oftentimes you'll reach into some part of the image and you'll see that the color you're moving is more magenta or even red. Um, it's also because I'm saturation. Yeah. All right, so now, so let's get people to be people colored. Okay. So those adjustments that I'm doing on this bank of individual color sliders here, uh, toggle them on and off. You can see how it's just sort of unifying all the orangey tones around that single kind of hue. Um, those adjustments are downstream of white balance. So if you go back and you adjust white balance, you got to kind of imagine it in terms of like you're sending color to those hue sliders, and those hue sliders are going to try to kind of corral it into that orangey color that I was picking there. Uh, so what I'll do oftentimes like this, if I have this sort of squarey kind of a thing that I really want to adjust, is I'll do something crazy with it so I can really see what I'm doing, like making it green. And then I'll go in and try to do my subtle stuff to it. Again, in my mind, that camera is made out of this sort of bluish kind of metal here, but it's also getting this spill light on it from the sun, but I just don't want that camera to be orange. Also, again, because the bluer I make that camera and get away with it, that's a key thing, is and the more detail I pop out in that camera, the softer she looks and the pinkery orangier she looks. So before, after. And when I do the before, you can see, like we all looked at this image and we thought, that's a pleasing image that has warmth and humanness and skin in it in a way that is lovely. But now you realize that she is in fact like Grimace, you know, and now she's a person. There's more I could do with this one, but I'm going to move on. What would I use to bring down the brightness right by our head so it's not really bright? A second shoot day. I'll tell you, you know what? All right, here we are. Here we are. Let's get into this. Let's I don't want to bring that brightness down. I love that brightness. That brightness to me is like everything about what makes this image this image. I frequently do crazy stuff like this when I have an image like this. I'll do something like this because there's nobody over your shoulder telling you can't do this. Let's see here. And that gives me an excuse to make my camera a little more blue. And so now, you know, you can, when your opponent comes at you with the cue stick broken in half, you can try to block it and you will get hurt. Or you can do what Steven Seagal does in the good Steven Seagal movies, which is he uses his opponent's strength against him. And then now the guy's on the floor holding the cue sticks going, what happened to me? You know, use your opponent's strength against them. If there's a big bright thing in the image, you can try to darken it down, but there's a big bright thing in the image. It might be better if you just let it be what it wants to be. I'm kind of more into that now. Fred S. Woohoo! Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes, the question from the audience was, did I just say good Steven Seagal movies? And the answer is yes, the first four, including the first one, Above the Law, which has all of the same cast from The Fugitive, and is a better movie. What did I just press, man? Did I just
you're in the Finder, dude.
What is this Finder of which is there we go. Oh, that's cool. What is that, Fred S? Sorry? Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Our first underexposed image. This is another case where people, I love that we actually have some different colors of skin in this because it's an opportunity to talk about what makes skin skin and what makes it look pleasing. And the good news about that is that the answer is the same across most ethnicities. we respond to hues in skin. So I'm going to hop over here to these hue controls, and I'm just going to show you that if I grab these skins, this is a perfect example. See how much red is moving here. So this skin is not orange, you know, and it's possible I could get this skin orange, but the truth is I love the way this paper looks, so I'm really tempted to not do much to this image. All I really want to do in this image is balance out the lighting a little bit and make people look great. And so again, 1-2 punch for people looking great. Make people color, make everything that isn't a person the opposite of people color. So uh, I'm gonna actually start by just doing my little shadows trick. So I'm gonna pick a blue over here that I know is gonna be wrong and crank it up. Now you see it's too much, right? When I crank this up, I'm tinting the image too much blue. The reason for that is this balance slider. You need to push it over and let highlights be highlights, and then I'll bring that back down. So now I'm just bluing up the shadows, but that's making the people even pinker, and these people are super pink. So I am going to just, now that I've blued up the shadows, I think I can get away with warming up the highlights just a little bit, and then in that hue, so here's if I don't move red. If I move red over, now I'm getting all these skin tones kind of into a happy place here. Now, the other thing, I have a personal allergy to when denim and other kinds of like blue, like naturally blue things get too saturated. So I'm grabbing this little tool here. Does everybody know about this little tool? Okay, this tool is amazing. Okay, you can like be like, that's blue, and grab blue and move blue around and have saturated blue or desaturated blue. Or you can be like, you know what? I don't trust myself. I'm gonna grab this little doohickey here. So you click on this little guy, and now you can float into the image with this little wristwatch looking thing dangling from your cursor, and you can see these little rows of corresponding to the slider, they actually light up, right? So that sleeve, even though it looks pink to me, is actually orange. That's blue. That's blue. Over here, this stuff is blue. So then you can just grab and click, and I'm sliding the mouse up and down, and the cursor disappears, so it's hard for you to see what I'm doing. But by sliding this up and down, I'm actually adjusting the saturation of that. I can do the same with hue, like on skin tones. I can just grab, touch the skin, and you can see it's moving both red and orange. So if it doesn't, if the color that I click on doesn't land square on one of those hues, it will move them proportionately, which is super powerful and cool. Okay, I feel like we're going to be 2 gradients here and a vignette, and we're done. This is a cool photo. I like this. I don't want to overdo this too much, but all right. Beat you to it. But what I do want to do is I'm just going to do a couple dots of exposure on this. To me, that's not the star of the show, even though it is sharp. To me, where he's pointing is the star of the show. Okay. So here we were before. Here we are after. Look at the histogram on this one. The histogram is piled up in the shadows. I have intentionally broken what my own advice here about like I could, if you want to balance out the histogram, you could do something terrible to this image like that. That's what like the histogram pedants out there want you to do with this image. They are wrong, obviously. So that was a fun one. All right. What we got here? We got George P. All right. Wow. All right. You already got socks. Don't be vying for double socks. Everybody wants to just test the shadows and highlight sliders out. That's what everybody wants to do. George P. has chromatic aberration. All right, so this is the best thing in the world, by the way. If you're not doing this like all the time, it's just the greatest, right? So you zoom in on this tree. This tree has the classic chromatic aberration. It used to be that you had like 70, 112 sliders that you had to adjust. Now you have just a button because computers. Uh, I am going to, we have enough of these. I'm going to cheat on this one a little bit. I'm going to go into the vintage file because again, I'm feeling a little like I'm inspired by this image. So some of these presets are going to overwrite some of those adjustments that I did there.
Stu,
Yo,
this is your 15-minute warning.
sweet. Okay. All right. We're going to crank. Should we do speed round coming up here? Oh, 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 oh. Can we do anything with the perspective on this picture? Yeah, you know, it's always like, in the same way that I'm on the spot, we can put Lightroom on the spot here. And we can always try, we can see what upright has to do with this guy. You know what? I'll take it. Because with upright, that's the only choice you have, is either you take it or you don't. That's not entirely true. You can get in there the manual controls like an animal and try to adjust it yourself. But pretty much for me, if upright falls off the truck looking good, then I'm happy. And if not, then not. So this is a classic case where post-crop vignette is necessary after having done that kind of adjustment to this image. And I'm going to take this image and I love the sky, obviously, but I think I love the building more. So I don't want to like completely throw that out, but this is getting a little bit into that territory that I was talking about. When you got shadows cranked up like this, and you've got highlights cranked down all the way, you're into that territory where what you're doing resembles brain surgery more than photography. So I'm going to be cautious about that. Okay, before, after. All right, we're going to speed round. Maria C. Woo! You've been looking at that the whole time going, when is he going to get to mine? Keep skipping over mine. It's the first one. Cars are, okay, finally we can go back into some like colorful kinds of images here. This has the same kind of perspective challenges as the Golden Gate Bridge shot, but it's really cool. So see how I'm using the vignette at the gradient here at a funky angle to try to make the sky seem regular. Boom. Before, after. I like that one. Well, that's cool. All right, so everything I said about skin tones goes out the window on this one because I do believe there's something intentional going on with this one.
While Stu speeds through controls, I'll just apologize in case anybody else here is being driven crazy by the high-pitched beeping noise. Can anyone hear that? You're not crazy. Apparently top people are on the case.
Now I hear it.
Sorry. But have been for a while. I don't know how hard it is to silence the beeping, but I guess they're having some trouble. Sorry about that. Beep, 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 beep.
It wouldn't be fair if I didn't. Sorry. I I do this kind of stuff secretly to photos of my loved ones, and they thank me for it, and they don't really want to know the details. Um, uh, a fun trick for a shot like this is she's young, beautiful, but we can all use a little help sometimes. Negative clarity, in a ton, like so, lots of clarity, scary. Negative clarity, scary, but a little bit of negative clarity feels like it goes well with the backlitness. And again, this is that case of like you get away with this then by painting it back in a couple places. So you get a clarity only brush up in here, and you crank up the flow a little bit, and you put detail back in a couple places: hair, lips and teeth, and of course eyes, but not the parts of the eyes that went to Burning Man. Okay, so before, after. Okay. Everybody's always up in airplanes in this group. Helicopter. I could have called that one. All right, so I'm not quite sure what story to tell about this place. Legos. I like that. Why is that so hard to grab from here? Actually, no, let's keep that. Okay. All right. Inception. Um, enable profile corrections. Cross your fingers. No, we don't know what lens this is, so we're gonna auto this. I go mental with images like this that have, um, geometry in them that wants to be straight, right? Uh, let's turn on Constraint Crop while we do that, and we won't have those funky edges. I'm sure that everything in this shot actually is beige. But we'll get it there. Before, after. I'm not even asking people if they're here yet. Mike W, you here? All right, sweet. All right. Where is this? What's that? Ah, beautiful. Why will you just let me be? So gradient, some clarity. the cool things so that I have the license to warm things. I want to be very judicious with this because nobody likes yellow snow. But you see I cranked up the vibrance there. And, you know, everything, this shot to me is like kind of about a harmony of things. Like nothing really wants to be the star of the show. So I bring in this gradient aggressively and then I just back it down until it sort of feels like it's not there, but it really is super there. Then let's get them out into submission here. Before, after. What's my target time to finish all these, Ben? Ooh, that's cool.
Like 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
When I get there,
We can also face the inevitable that you're probably not going to hit everyone.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I can't even hear what the words you're saying right now. We will all just have to imagine that I got in there and did some clarity stuff and whatever, but you know, she's spectacularly beautiful, so there's not much to do here. This one is a dare. Hashtag Ducks. If you want to take pictures of birds, I know where you can find some. I live by Lake Merritt. Everyone feeds them. They poop the size of chihuahuas. Not chihuahua poop, actual chihuahuas. They poop like an entire chihuahua. Just going to call that the Save Me preset. But not this time. I'm at a loss on this one. Yeah. I assume that Ben rigged that up. Just to mess with me. Kid and Bull. Might never be unconstrained. Going Instagram on this one again. Oh man. Sometimes these just, oh, look at that. Oh, boom. Yay. Everybody loves babies. Overexposed babies. Oh, genuinely overexposed babies. All right, then. Let's not fight it. Again, if we're stuck like that, then we just can't let, I know that's too much, just relax. We just can't let the baby be the only part of this thing that's, you know, gone crazy. Inside out image, right side out image. I was bringing black, flat white. I don't know if you saw it, but well, I don't know how someone got a picture of my dinner. And I also don't quite want to spend too much time with this one, no offense, but it is like a picture of sea poop. Seems like this might be an important photo to somebody.
Okay, we're officially done. So you have 3.7 seconds for each of the remaining 5 photos.
I'm going to do it. Respectfully. Oh, oh, there it was. It was there. One of those is going to turn out good.
Thank you, Stu.
Hey, look at that. That's not bad.
Thank you so much, Stu. And thank you, everybody, for coming and for being a part of our largest gathering ever. And also, thank you to everybody who submitted photos, maybe particularly the people whose photos we didn't get to. I apologize for